back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today I've got a very special story for you, as we're going to be talking about the fan series Gen Genius, written by Kit Steels and is directed, produced and edited by Chris Hoyle. Before I even begin, I actually want to give a special thank out to Chris Hoyle, who allowed me to actually purchase the DVD. Despite it being a fan film, you might think, right, I've just burnt this off. I downloaded off YouTube and put it on the CD, but no, this is an actual DVD and it works on my PlayStation 4, which I find really cool. That's the inside of it. But more importantly, he allowed me to talk about this in the Doctor Who Marathon. That's especially cool, and I can't thank him enough. This was produced by the fan film production company, The Projection Room. Now, usually they make Doctor Who films starring their own doctors. People who just love Doctor Who and just wanted to get involved for the fun of it because they were missing the series after it left in 1989. And they just wanted, just to keep the spirit going. So they're obviously not a professional company, or at least not professional in terms of BBC or anything. They didn't buy the rights to Doctor Who. It's all unofficial stuff, you know what I mean? And usually they just, make up their own doctors and stuff. But here was a very special occasion. From what I can gather, this story was actually commissioned by somebody who had hired the Projection Room to film a fan Doctor Who film for their son's birthday, who was a massive fan of Doctor Who, specifically the 7th Doctor and Ace. Chris Hoyle started putting ideas together for a Doctor Who story starring the 3rd Doctor. In this story, the 3rd Doctor is played by John Field, somebody who's actually cast because he has a vague similarity in terms of appearance to Jon Pertwee, which personally I can't see, but yeah, he does a good job at capturing the mannerisms, even though his voice sounds nothing like Jon Pertwee. But it's just such a fascinating thing. So Chris Hoyle got this whole production team together until he found out that the parents of this kid who this is created for actually hired Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred to appear in a cameo role. Now, if you're going into this hoping for a 7th Doctor story, you're going to be disappointed. Their scenes are mainly, I wouldn't say cameos, because right at the very end they're a very important part. Literally the last act of the story. But they are the story isn't about them. They appear right at the start, where it's basically like a prologue to the story, and right at the end where the prologue and the rest of the story connect. And the majority of the plot is a 3rd Doctor adventure, having many of the Production Room cast playing Doctor Who characters like the Master and the Brigadier Alistair Lethbridge Stewart. So yeah, and I think it's really unfair to judge this on official Doctor Who content. This was mainly a amateur productions made by fans, so whether the actors captured the likeness and the mannerisms of their TV counterparts is a very, very hard job for them, and I don't blame them for not for not capturing that well as a professional setup of crew would. But Chris Hoyle did this because mainly he's a massive Doctor Who geek, and for him to work with Sylvester McCoy must have been an absolute dream. Like I said, he actually allowed me to actually get a copy of this, and for what I thought it was going to cost, it was actually surprisingly cheap. And he also, I just can't stress enough, right? He is a fantastic lad. When I bought this, he explained the pricing. He was like, sorry, it was costing, I think it was like £7, which I was actually expecting it to be a lot more. But he actually explained it's like £4 for the DVD itself, £5 for shipping or something like that. But he actually went into detail, and he actually was very, I just can't stress enough, he's a very awesome lad. He was like constantly messaging me about like, okay, the DVD's being burnt now, I've just got to print the cover. Okay, print the cover, it's sending to you, it should be to you in a couple of days. And like I said, he allowed me to put this on the Doctor Who marathon. So if I become heavily critical, it's not because Chris Hoyle is a bagger. He's one of the most amazing people that I've ever had the privilege to contact with. I mean, our thing was very brief, but the fact, you know, I've known about him, I've been a huge fan of his work. I especially like, I believe it's called The Stitch in Time. The Stitch in Time. I really like that one, and I really like this one as well. So, again, thank you so much, Chris Hoyle. If you're watching this, I cannot thank you enough. I haven't even gotten into the actual story itself, but it's just, I just can't believe that not only do I own a copy of this, but that the fact I actually talked to him and he allowed this to do that, it's just, oh, I don't know, it just really filled me up with glee, and he really made a fan of his work a very happy boy. But anyway, shall we actually talk about the story itself, the reason why you're here? Like I said, the starting of it sees Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred reprising their roles. In the context of the scene, they've gone to the Brigadier's cottage in what they believe is, I think they said 1993. And the Doctor explains that it's very nice, this place. It's full of tranquility and peace. But hopefully it's better than the last time we were here. And to which Ace is like, why, what happened the last time we were here? And the Doctor's like, oh, well. And he goes into the detail about like how he was unit scientific advisor, and which would actually lead into the story. Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred here are completely full of energy. Sure, like in terms of the context of the scene, they're just sitting down and talking, but they capture their characters to a T. Aldred might have had her role a bit turned down, but seeing as she's older, that this is an older Ace, it actually works. Sometimes the audio mix is a bit offy when it comes to her dialogue. There's a bit where she puts her hands to her ears and starts screaming because she doesn't want to listen to the Doctor. The audio tracking on that is a bit weak, but like I said, this is an amateur production, so I can't really fault it for that. Sylvester McCoy, my God, you can see he's really putting, like to him, he's really giving it all. This story came out in 2004, I believe. Oh, sorry. Wait, it was... Aha, it actually says, filming took place on July 2003 to July 2004. My God, this took a year to make. I didn't even realise that. Included location shooting, on Sunday the 23rd of November, which is actually Doctor Who Day, 2003, for the Doctor Who's 40th anniversary. So this was actually made during the Doctor Who's anniversaries, and I think it was released in 2004, just as they announced that Christopher Eccleston would be the new Doctor in the series, which would happen the year after. But yeah, like I said, just absolutely nailed it. But at the start of the story, their appearance is mainly cameos. The story then really kicks off with the third Doctor. Now, a lot of you might be wondering why I've put this story here as a seventh Doctor adventure, when really it's actually a third Doctor adventure. And that really goes to, the reasoning is its believability. As much as I love, I like the new casting characters, in terms of just purely on the fact of how they recreate the previous cast, I feel like it, I don't want to say falls flat, but I can't, my head, not that they're bad, but they just don't seem like the same characters. As I stated before, John Field is playing the third Doctor this time. And he does a great job at capturing his mannerisms and doing a very good Jon Pertwee impression. He does that thing with Jon Pertwee, like when he's getting serious, he speaks a little bit quicker, and he does this a lot. Especially when he's in a great scene where he's offered tea, but the Brigadier. The guy who plays the Brigadier, I believe his name is like Paul Gordon. He's played the Doctor and a few other projection room stories. He is nothing like Nicholas Courtney. I would have thought it would have been a much better idea if he was playing like a completely original character. Like if he was playing someone completely new. But that, you know, if it was a completely new character, I would have been completely fine with it. You do get the sense that these characters are friends. The Doctor goes to the Brigadier's house, and sure, there's got some really, I don't want to say, like amateur dialogue. Like there's a scene where the Doctor walks into the Brigadier's house and the Brigadier's like, come in, despite the Doctor already being in the house, just not in the living room. And that just seems like a really weird scene. The Brigadier has actually asked the Doctor to investigate a situation involving stolen equipment, which just seems to be a lot of scientific equipment around the globe being stolen. But the Doctor in the Brigadier's house reads a newspaper of, I believe it's the New Science, which is actually based off a real-life magazine back in the 1970s, and the Doctor's reading on this article about a group of, I believe they're bioengineers who are trying to strengthen the human immune system, and believes that the Master is involved due to a photo in the picture with what appears to be the Master. Like I said, these are all like the fan casts, so they have a new actor who's actually played the Master in several projection room storylines. I can't remember his name. That's really embarrassing. I do apologise. I'll probably put his name down below somewhere. But he does a very good job at playing a threatening Master, a very good sinister portrayal. But it's kind of strange in terms of Doctor Who continuity that the Doctor recognises him by his picture, despite the fact that he's played by like a completely different actor who doesn't even look anywhere near any classic masters. But, you know, you get the idea, this is a fan production, you get the idea that he is supposed to be the master. My headcanon is that it takes place after, sometime after the last Robert Delgado story. And so this is like the regeneration prior to the Peter Pratt version in The Deadly Assassin. That's just my like little headcanon. So the Doctor goes to investigate by going into to go and have a visit through this lab. One of the people the Doctor meets, who actually gives him like a small little detour, is actually played by Chris Hoyle, sorry. And to be honest, when I first watched this, I never realised that was him. And I hadn't seen this story in a while. In fact, this is my second viewing of it, and it's only now has it clicked. Oh my god, that's him. He seems to be like the head, and also helps to run around the place, and he goes knocking on the person that the Doctor believes is the master, only for him to not appear in the building. It's also here that the Doctor befriends a woman who works there, and she, despite being grateful to this guy the Doctor suspects is the master, she kind of feels like there's something sinister about him, that something's not right with him. And so the Doctor's pushed forth to investigate and will come back the next day. Did I mention this is 3 parts long? This is 3 parts long, so we've got cliffhangers. And the first cliffhanger is actually the revelation that it is, in fact, the Master, which is, I think it's 50-50, if I'm going to be honest. On the one hand, it's greatly shot and edited. We've got Chris Hoyle's character, Professor Sidney, talking to him after he's back into his office, but his head is actually obscuring the view, only for the image to appear, him to appear afterwards and show that he's the Master. And this would actually have been a great cliffhanger for those familiar with the Projection Room fan films, as he is, like I said, has already appeared as the Master in a few other productions. But on the other hand, the twist is kind of weakened by the fact that at the start of the story, the Doctor's absolutely determined that the Master's involved, and there's never any, like, you never get the feeling that he's wrong or that it's someone else. So, like, right off the bat, the Doctor knows that the Master's involved. So the twist is kind of weakened by that fact. I think it would have been a much greater idea if the Doctor sensed there was something wrong but didn't know that the Master was involved, or he suspected, but we had a scene earlier on where somebody confronts his fear. I mean, we do get a scene like that, but I don't think it's strong enough. The Brigadier basically is like, you're obsessed with the Master, you're letting your obsession get the better of you. There's also a really funny bit in which the Brigadier points out the fact that the Master isn't using an anagram of the Master, which is like his thing, his deal, his calling card, as the Doctor would say. That I find really funny as a bit of a self-referential moment. But I never felt those scenes were strong enough to put the audience off. And so I think the cliffhanger for part 1 is incredibly weak. Now, the Master explains that he's first of all, he asks Sydney to... First of all, the Master asks Sydney to call up the Doctor to arrange another visit, to which the Doctor obliges to after having an argument with the Brigadier, as the Brigadier is trying to get the Doctor on the case of the missing technology but obviously the Doctor is less interested in that and more on this genetic problem, this thing about the Master. And so the Doctor actually goes to the thing and he meets up with the Master, who pretends to be this scientist who cares for humanity and wants to see them progress. He explains that what he's working on is a drug that would strengthen the immune system of humans to that they basically conquer, I don't know if it's all, but most, if not all, diseases, and basically hoping that humanity would get better, and that he's been working with other scientists there, funding their projects in the vain hope that he'll get there. And the Doctor kind of plays along until he asks Sydney to step out the room. And the Doctor's like, okay, Master, it's clearly you. This whole charade has gone long enough. What are you planning on doing? And the Master's like, I've just told you. I'm making something which will strengthen humanity. Care for humanity? No, that's not what I want. Let me show you. And he lets the Doctor into a room, which is revealed to be the Master's TARDIS. Now, a lot of people criticise this story for the appearance of the Master's TARDIS, in that it's too dark and gloomy. I'm a bit 50-50. I am against the criticism that it's dark and gloomy. It's the Master's TARDIS. It should be dark and gloomy. And they have these like ultraviolet lights at one point, showing a mass burst of energy, and it looks stunning. And Chris Hoyle's directing really shows it off. But there's this strobe light which I found personally really distracting, and the story doesn't warn you of any strobe effects, which is a bit of a concern because some people might suffer from epilepsy. So if you're going into this story, please be aware that there are strobe light effects in the story which might cause epilepsy. I haven't heard any issues with people having it, but when watching this story, but just a little heads up there. And the Master basically explains that he's been working on a project, something. He's been working on a race, not the human race, or maybe halfly human, something in his TARDIS basement, I guess. As he activates the machine, and the Doctor is blinded by a massive amount of ultraviolet lights, a boost of radiation so that the Master can power his creatures, and they start smashing onto these appearance, which reminds me a lot of the Cybermen breaking through their tombs in Tomb of the Cybermen. And that's really fitting, because the cliffhanger for part 2 is the revelation that the Master is working on the Cybermen. And on this we've got some cool 80s Cybermen in the story, who have been working with the Master to try and get these vials, to try and get these things to protect them. The Master's also been working on the Cybermen, giving them a specific monitor on their chest monitors, which makes them less susceptible to gold. So basically these are an army of super Cybermen, even though there's only 3. But straight off the bat, they betray the Master, very fitting, and they go on a rampage, attacking the people at the hospital, at the science research facility, and trying to get to to a vocal point where their ship can take them. And so the unit soldiers start coming in and firing. One bit which I think, you can't really fault it for, it's an amateur production in 2003, 2004, but it is kind of silly when you see them firing, but there's no sparks or anything. You just have people with guns just go in. And there are sound effects, but they're not always in tune to the gun firing that they're causing. And clearly some of them are kids. Some of them are kids dressed up as unit soldiers, and the brigadier dresses up in his unit attire, which is kind of cool. It does actually help connect this story with the real brigadier, in which they're firing on the Cybermen. The Doctor's partially blinded at this point and needs the help of the woman that he befriended earlier. There's a kind of like a subplot in episode 3 in which the Doctor's blinded, but then that really never goes anywhere as he just recovers later on. Like, it never really becomes a issue in the plot, which I find is kind of odd, but, you know, it's kind of like, it's just one of those things which is just there, I guess. And they're blasting around, and the Doctor goes back to the scientific thing because he's got a plan, and he's trying to look for the control that the Master was originally using to control the Cybermen with, to which they find, but they couldn't find the Master's body, who was knocked out by the Cybermen earlier on. So the Master's gotten away, and the Doctor takes the device and tells the Brigadier to hold your fire, wait until I activate this machine, and then fire at them all, because it will basically distract them, and hopefully you can take down some Cybermen, and hopefully this missile will destroy them. And he does it, and they start firing and blasting away, but the Cybermen get away just in time, or at least so quickly in time that the rest of the unit soldiers believe that they have actually destroyed the Cybermen. The Doctor, not quite sure. He believes that there's a possibility they escaped. And so we then cut back to the Doctor and Ace, in which they explain that, at least the Doctor explains that he doesn't actually remember it having a resolution. From his memory, that was the end of it, and was left not sure if the Cybermen survived or not, enhancing their cyber race to almost undefeatable progress, and doesn't know what happened to the Master. So, yeah, when all of a sudden the Third Doctor and the Brigadier suddenly just walk in the same garden, and the Doctor's like, what's the TARDIS doing here? How am I supposed to take Bessie and this back to Unit HQ, in which the Seventh Doctor then interacts with his previous incarnation, and we get some really nice witty dialogue between the actors. There's this good bit where the Doctor's like, you take Bessie and I'll take my TARDIS. And Ace is like, sorry, our TARDIS. That's better. When suddenly the Cybermen return and explain that they survived, but the vial that was containing the super genetics in a way was destroyed, and so they need to go and track down the Master, or get the Doctor's new friend, that woman that he befriended, to create some more. Until the Seventh Doctor basically says, right, I will, don't harm anyone, and I will go in the TARDIS and retrieve some more vials from the Master's TARDIS. And Ace and everybody was like, no, you can't make a deal with the Cybermen to enhance them, to make them the unstoppable Cybermen race. To which the Doctor's like, I'm sorry, I can't. There's no promises. And so he gets into his TARDIS. It disappears. It returns, and the Doctor has a new apply of vials, to which he plans to hand over, only for the Master to appear outside the Doctor's TARDIS. Well, he appears from the Doctor's TARDIS, and there's a bit of a dilemma which the Doctor doesn't know who to pass it to. But then he says there's no contest, and he hands it to the Cybermen, who take the vial and teleport off. the Master trying to get his vials back actually follows the Cybermen on their teleporting area, to which he teleports onto the cyber ship. And Ace and the Brigadier are shocked. How can the Doctor make this deal? Until the Doctor reveals, but the best thing about a time machine is that you have time. I had time to manipulate the vials, so they're now the exact opposite. Instead of enhancing the Cyberman race, it will weaken them immensely. And the story ends with the Doctor and Ace kind of having a nice little giggle moment. And that's Gen Genius, a fan film featuring the Third Doctor and the official Seventh Doctor. Overall, if you're expecting high quality entertainment, you're not gonna get it here. It's mainly made for a birthday surprise. It's made with a lot of fun. It's made with a lot of heart. Not to say the story isn't about anything. It is. It's about the determinations and how and betrayal, as you know, the Dark Master and the Cybermen get betrayed, and the Master betrays the people he's working for, and how people manipulate others to gain their own goals. But the story's main objective is just to have a nice little guff moment. It's to celebrate, to have fun, and if you're going into this story with the knowledge that you're watching a fan film with very little, but still has the appearance of Ace and the Seventh Doctor in their official status, but majority is a fan production featuring the Third Doctor, I say it's pretty good. I say I recommend it. And I'm not just saying that because Chris Hoyle gave it to me and gave me permission to make this video. Although I must state that is incredibly cool. So there you go, that's Gen Genius. So join me next time where we will be talking about a free Big Finish audio story, and it's probably one of the best Seventh Doctor stories out there. So join me next time for the short trip adventure, Forever Fallen, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-ra!